And what is up, everyone? Welcome back to Mine is the Fury. Of course, I am Eric, and I'm going to be reviewing Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 2, Stormborn. Amazing episode. Before I get to it, of course, remember as always to check out Honest Jack, DTV, and Oddsafe channel. Links to their content will be in the description below. Great stuff. Make sure you check it out. So, on to the episode. It was a big episode. A lot happened. Full spoilers, got to get into it, and I want to start with Dany and everything that happened at Dragonstone. So we see Dany, she's at Dragonstone, and she's figuring out what to do next, and she has a very interesting scene with Varys, the former spy master of King's Landing, and she says to him, "Thank you for brokering the deal with Dorne, thank you for brokering the deal with the Queen of Thorns, but you served my father once, and then you served the man who replaced him," and he says, "To be perfectly honest, Robert Baratheon was an improvement over your father. That's how bad your father was. Robert didn't care about ruling, but he was better." And then she gets Varys and says, who ordered my death, and who put the pieces in place to organize the poison and stuff? And Varys says, "Look, I did what I had to do. If you want to execute me, just have Grey Worm execute me. But I believe in you. I choose you." And she says, "Swear to me, if you ever don't think that anymore, you will say it to my face like you're saying now." And he agrees to her, and he says to her, "I serve the people in the realm." And she says, "But if you betray me, I will burn you alive." And that was kind of chilling, because it was kind of reminded me of her father, that she does have some of her father in her, definitely. Next, she has a visitor, and who is that Dragonstone? It's Melisandre, who everybody who knows me knows is not my favorite character, especially these days. I can't stand her. But she has some interesting news. She says to Dany, "You have a part to play in this war to come, and so does another, Jon Snow, who's been crowned king of the North." Tyrion, of course, knows Jon Snow. They traveled to the Wall together. He says to Dany, "I trust him." And something else that came out of the scene, the whole prophecy of Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised. And Missandei catches this. She says there's an error in the translation. It could actually be prince or princess, which could, of course, be Dany. So Dany wants to meet with Jon, and she says to Tyrion, "Send the Raven and tell them to come to Dragonstone and to bend the knee." That's something to think about. But later in the episode, Dany's with her entire war council, figuring out what to do next. Yara's there, the Queen of Thorns is there, Alaria Sand. Now, Yara and the Alaria Sand, they want to strike King's Landing now. Hit it now, we got the force, let's just go take it. And a part of me thinks they may have been right, but Dany has other plans. She wants to send the Dorne army and the Tyrell army elsewhere, and she wants to send her own army, the Dothraki and the Unsullied, to Castle Rock. Now, we have never seen Castle Rock on the show, so that's exciting that we're potentially finally going to see it. So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. Next, Dany has a very sweet scene with the Queen of Thorns, and I love the Queen of Thorns. She's just so knowledgeable and wise, and she says to her, "Look, peace never lasts. Are you a sheep or are you a dragon? Be the dragon." Great scene. Next, we have a scene with Grey Worm and Missandei. Grey Worm, of course, is going to go off to battle, and Missandei knows there's a chance they may never see each other again. So what do? They basically have sex. Now, of course, Grey Worm has been cut. He no longer has his parts, but he still has a mouth, and he's able to please her in different ways. But it was a very sweet and touching scene. I thought it was done very tastefully and very elegantly as far as sex scenes go. So that's everything that's going on with Dragonstone. I want to get to King's Landing. So Cersei's meeting with the leaders of houses, including House Tarly, Sam's father, saying, "Look, the Mad Queen's daughter is here. She's going to destroy us all. We need to unite. She has dragons." And Jaime also tries to convince Samwell's father, Tarly, that he needs to back Cersei because Targaryens are crazy, and he says he will make him like second in command if he joins them. And personally, I think Randall Tarly is going to side with Cersei. That's just my personal opinion. Could be wrong. Maybe he'll go with Dany. Next, we see a scene with Cersei and Qyburn, who has become her hand, where we see all the dragon skulls they used to decorate the throne room when the Mad King was in power. Robert Baratheon did not smash them, and like a lot of people thought, he saved them, and Cersei says they were basically his trophies. And Qyburn shows her this huge crossbow thing that can potentially kill Dany's dragons. I still personally think a dragon is going to fall this season. But we'll see. So that's everything that's going on in King's Landing. Next, I want to get to Arya. She had two great reunions. So she's at an inn, and who does she see at the inn? Who's there? It's Hot Pie. We all love Hot Pie. It was great to see him again. And he gives her some very valuable information. He says to her, "You're going to go to Winterfell." And she says, "Why would I go there? The Boltons rule." And he says, "No. Your brother Jon defeated the Boltons. He's in power. He's the king in the north. The Starks are back in control of it." And she gets all excited and happy, knowing that she could finally potentially reunite with family. And it's such a sweet scene. She says to Hot Pie, "Stay alive." And I agree with that, Hot Pie. Stay alive, buddy. We all love you. But next, she has a scene, another reunion, one we've been waiting for a very, very long time. So she's surrounded. We see Arya get surrounded by wolves. And who does she see? It's Nymeria, who we have not seen since season 1 when Arya sent her away because she was going to be killed. And she says to Nymeria, "I'm going home, come with me." Nymeria won't go with her, and Arya says, "That's not you," meaning she kind of understands Nymeria is not meant to be with her. She's meant to be out in the world doing her own thing, just like Arya's meant to be out and about in the world, kicking ass and taking names. There was a very sweet scene and a very sad scene, but it was great to see Nymeria again. I'm not sure if we will ever see her again, to be perfectly honest, but we'll see. So next I want to get to the Citadel with Sam. Jorah, of course, has his grayscale, and we see it, and it's pretty bad. It's pretty much all over his body, and they're trying to figure out what to do. Samwell says he met Stannis Baratheon's daughter back at the Wall, and her grayscale was cured, but the Maester reminds him she was, number one, very young, and number two, they caught it very quickly. Jorah is not in that situation, of course, but Samwell does some reading, and he does find a way that could potentially cure Jorah's grayscale. So what does he do? He says to Jorah, "Look, this is going to be very painful. Bite down on this. Like, no one can hear you scream." He's taking the pieces off, piece by piece, and putting like some kind of ointment stuff over it, and that potentially can cure Jorah's grayscale. And I have to give Jorah a lot of credit. The acting he does in the scene, the agony he conveys when Sam's doing this is absolutely incredible. So I think he's going to be cured. I still think he is going to die at some point, but I don't think it's going to be by grayscale. So way to go, Sam. Great stuff. So next I want to get to everything that happened at Winterfell. So Jon gets the Raven from Dany. He gets also a message from Sam that Dragonglass is at Dragonstone, and he wants to meet with Daenerys, but a lot of his council advise against it, including Sansa. She says, "Last time our family went to meet with our Targaryen, they got boiled alive." And Lyanna Mormont's like, "We need the king in the north here." And other people are just saying, "Jon, don't go," but he says, "We have to do this." But he's going to leave the north in great hands. He's leaving Sansa in charge. And you can see Littlefinger kind of starts to scheme. You see he's planning. You see he's got things going on in his head. So then we see Jon in the crypts, visiting Ned's crypt, and Littlefinger says to him, "Look, I'm not your enemy. I loved your mother. I loved your sister." And Jon grabs him by the throat and starts choking him and says, "Don't you ever go near my sister. I'll kill you." And Littlefinger realizes he's got to be careful with Jon. And I think he will be, but he's still going to take full advantage of Jon not being there. But I still think in the end, Sansa will stay loyal to Jon. I think she's grown as a character. She's not that same girl who had stupid dreams like she used to say. She's grown quite a bit. So Jon's going to meet with Dany, with Davos, bringing Davos. Very good idea to bring him. That's huge. I mean, a lot of people have been waiting for Jon and Daenerys to finally meet, and it looks like it's going to happen in the next episode, and I'm pretty pumped for it to see what happens when Ice and Fire finally meet. So next I want to get to the big sea battle. Now, we see Yara and Ilaria Sand and Theon, Ilaria Sand's basically hitting on Yara, Theon's pouring them drinks, they're having fun. We see the Sand Snakes, who I hate. But then we hear a big, gigantic boom. Who is it? It's Euron Greyjoy. He promised Cersei a gift, and it looks like he wants to make the Ilaria Sand and Yara and all them the gift. He starts going berserk, killing people. He starts laughing with this like Joker kind of laugh, and he shows he's a pretty good warrior. He's taking people out left and right, taking shots left and right. The Sand Snakes try to fight back, but Euron kills them. And to be honest, I was never a fan of the Sand Snakes from the beginning in Season 5. They just didn't live up to the hype, in my opinion, so I'm not really sad to see them go. But then his men take Illyria's sand, and one of the Sand Snakes, her biological daughter, captive. He doesn't kill them. Yara starts to fight. Theon starts to fight. Yara's a great warrior. She starts taking him on, but he gets the upper hand on her, has a knife to her throat, and he says to Theon, he taunts him. He basically says, "Come and get her." Theon has to make a choice, and what does he do? He jumps overboard. Now, in the moment, when it first happened, I was a little upset with Theon, but when you really think about it, it makes perfect sense. We saw what he went through in Season 3. The show made a very important point to show us his torture in Season 3 in all its detail, and it makes sense that he would revert back to that, because that's something that's going to stay with him for the rest of his life. So I understand his decision to jump in the water, but still, it was pretty heartbreaking to see, Yara's expression, seeing him jump, because she tried to save him in Season 4, and I think she realizes, though, he's never going to quite be Theon ever again. I hope Yara makes that alive. I don't think she's going to. I love Yara, but it was a great battle scene, lots of action, great stuff. So, that's what I thought of the episode. I thought it was great. I'm loving the season, loving the vibe of the season, the tone of the season. One little minor complaint this week, I hope we see Bronn next week. I love Bronn. His wit and humor always brings something great to the show. So, thank you as always for watching. I will see you guys next week. Have a good night.